What's bonking, guys? Today I am talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you guys recall, I talked about it in my first video. It is my favorite series ever. And yeah, so I figured I'd talk about it. If it's not in your life, you should fix that. You should watch JoJo because it's peak. And yeah, it's going to be a main focus of my channel. Even my name, Ori Joe, the Joe comes from JoJo. So I figured I'd talk about it. I have a few other videos planned that'll go into depth about other specific things. But I figured I'd give you guys an overview of JoJo, explain it a little bit, and yeah. So basically, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is, well, it's the bizarre adventures of the Joestar family, and their battles with fate is the best way I can describe it. So each part has a JoJo, which is the main character, has a JoFo, which is the villain, and it has JoBros, which are the JoJo's side characters. It's their friends, basically, their support. So yeah, every part has those three things. They all take place in different time periods, in different places in the world, but they're connected. So two things I do want to mention. Oh yeah, real quick, there is 9 parts in the manga, and there's 6 parts in the anime. If I didn't already mention that, I don't think I did. But so one thing is JoJo does take place in the real world. So you'll hear me name real life countries because JoJo does take place in the real world. Every country they go to exists in the real world. A lot of monuments they visit exist in the real world. So JoJo is realistic in that way. The other thing is there's a lot of music references, so I'll go over some of them when they come up. Obviously, I won't go over all of them because then I'd be here for hours. I don't even know all of them. I'm sure there's music references I don't even know. I guarantee there are. So yeah. But I'll let you know, guys. I'll let you guys know about a few of them. So now, without further ado, where better to start than Phantom Blood, which is part 1. So Phantom Blood, or part 1, takes place in the Victorian era, which, if you guys don't know, is the 1800s. The specific year, I wouldn't know. I don't really care for history, but it takes place in England. And the main character is Jonathan Joestar. So Phantom Blood begins with a horse-drawn carriage crashing, and in this carriage is Jonathan Joestar as a baby, his father, George Joestar, and his mother, which I believed is named Mary Joestar. Mary passes away, but George and Jonathan survive the crash, and they are, quote-unquote, saved by Dario Brando. Dario Brando is actually really a robber. He is trying to steal George's, well, what he believes to be corpse, and George wakes up and he's like, oh, you saved me. George is really stupid, and I think he wants to give Dario the benefit of the doubt because that motherfucker was not trying to save them. But yeah, he basically believes that he is indebted to him. So Dario later dies, and he sends his son, Dio Brando, to go live with the Joestars. Now that is arguably the most important thing I think that has ever happened in all of JoJo. And if you ask me, Dio is the most important character in all of JoJo. His presence can be felt in every single part. If I remember, I'll explain his influence in every part, but I might forget that part. We'll see. But yeah, basically, he goes to live with the Joestars, and he ruins Jonathan's life. He's the worst. He's like Doflamingo. He's like Darth Vader. He's like the Joker. He's like Griffith. He's like all of them. I mean, he's the worst. I'm not going to spoil it all because I want you guys to go watch it for yourselves, but he does a lot of shit to Jonathan. Yeah, so, Dio is the main villain of part 1, and Jonathan does have to defeat him. But they use a power system called Hamon, which is using the power of the sun, basically through your breathing. And so Jonathan has to use it to fight a certain monster. I won't spoil what monster. Maybe you guys can guess it, though. It's a monster that is weak to sunlight, so they have to defeat that monster. For example, they fight Jack the Ripper, but he's turned into a zombie, and the zombies are not the monster, but they're henchmen of the monster I aforementioned. So he has to fight Jack the Ripper, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, basically that is part 1, and part 1 is the worst part. A lot of people don't like it. I didn't like it my first time, but it has grown on me, and I love all of the parts. Even though it's the worst, I still love it. I do think it is a really good part still. So I definitely recommend it. It's only 9 episodes. It might be a little rough to get through, but I promise peak awaits. So yeah, I urge all you guys to watch JoJo. Now, part 2 is called Battle Tendency, and it takes place in a few different countries, but it starts in America, in New York, and it takes place during World War II. So the JoJo is named Joseph Joestar. So he is Jonathan's grandson, and basically he has to fight these beings called the Pillarmen. The Pillarmen are like superhuman Aztec creatures, is kind of the best way I can describe it. They're really strong, and they created objects that turn humans into the monster from part 1. And in fact, that monster shows up again in part 2 for a little bit, but it's mostly the Pillarmen. So yeah, Joseph has to defeat the Pillarmen. Basically, they are trying to get this object called the Redstone of Asia, which will let them become the ultimate life form, and Joseph has to stop that. So part 2 is when things really start getting bizarre. For example, one thing that's kind of odd, there's a Nazi in it, because, you know, it takes place during World War II. But there's a Nazi who actually helps Joseph. You know, obviously he's a bad guy because he's a Nazi, but he's also kind of a good guy. He does help save the world, and he's actually pretty cool. I would consider him a Joe Bro, but he's not the main one, of course. Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing. Some people say there's only one Joe Bro per part. I disagree. I think there's several Joe Bros per part, but, you know, you could argue some of them are more definitive than others, but I think as long as they're a side character and, like, they're helpful to the main character, I think they could be considered a Joe Bro, at least to a certain degree. So, yeah. That's part 2. I will say part 2 is my second or third favorite part, and Joseph is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. Top 3 favorite JoJo characters, easy. I love Joseph Joestar. He is the GOAT. So now getting into part 3, Stardust Crusaders. This is the part I'm sure most of you guys have seen clips from, or, you know of the most, because it takes place all across the world. They start in Japan, and they travel throughout Asia, throughout the Middle East, and into Egypt, and it takes place in 1989. The main character is Jotaro Kujo. You might notice, his last name is not Joestar anymore. He is related to the Joestars, it's through his mother. So he inherited his dad's last name. But you'll still hear Jotaro Kujo. It still has the JoJo in there. And he is Joseph's grandson. So basically, the plot of part 3, here's a spoiler real quick for the end of part 1. So if you plan to watch part 1, you might want to stop paying attention. I'll probably end up adding a timestamp if you want to skip ahead. But basically, Dio survives part 1. He's not dead. He's 100 years old at this point. He's 120. And he stole Jonathan's body. Basically, in part 1, he loses his body, but he survives. And so he kills Jonathan and steals his body. And he has been stuck under the ocean for the past 100 years, and he resurfaces and awakens a stand. Part 3 introduces a new power system called stands, which are the manifestation of your fighting spirit. So I will be making a whole video dedicated to stands because they're the craziest power system I think ever. They are hailed as one of the best power systems because they're very unique and they're very weird. They're kind of simple in part 3, but they branch out into some crazy shit later on. So yeah, they need a whole video of their own. But basically, Dio awakens a stand named The World. In part 3, stands are named using tarot cards. And so his card is The World. And basically, him awakening a stand caused all the other Joestars to awaken a stand. Family is kind of an important thing in JoJo. All of the Joestars are bound. Basically, they are tied to each other. They all bear the same star birthmark on their left trap, which I actually plan to get as a tattoo one day. I think that'd be pretty cool. And basically, they can all feel each other's presence. So, like, when Dio's nearby, Jotaro can feel him. Joseph can feel him. You know, that's how it works. They don't know which Joestar it is or how close they are, but they know that they're there, and they're all connected. So, Dio awakening a stand causes Joseph, Holly, which Holly is Joseph's daughter and Jotaro's mom, and then Jotaro causes the 3 of them to awaken a stand. It also causes another character to awaken a stand, but I'll go over him later. And basically, Holly's stand is killing her. She is not strong enough to withstand it, and if they do not kill Dio in 50 days, Holly will die. So Jotaro awakens a stand called Star Platinum. Its card is the star, and it is the same as the world. They are the same stand. Physically, they are the strongest stand. There is no stand that can physically outmatch them. At one point, Jotaro breaks through Diamond. Star Platinum is extremely strong. But that's it. It doesn't have any other special abilities except like good precision and everything. But the world has a special ability, and Star Platinum copies that ability later. I won't spoil it. You guys might already know what it is from memes, but yeah. So basically, that's the premise of part 3: is them traveling from Japan to Egypt in order to kill Dio. So now, part 4 is called Diamond is Unbreakable, and it takes place in Morio, which is a fictional town in Japan. So this is the one location I know of that is fictional. It takes place in 1999, and the main character is named Josuke Higashikata. So you might hear that Higashikata does not have Joe in it. Apparently it does, but that's a kanji thing, and I can't read kanji, so I can't explain it to you guys. But apparently his name does have JoJo. So you'll notice his last name is different. Again, same thing kind of with Jotaro, but he is Joseph's illegitimate son. So, and he is the 4th member I mentioned earlier. During the events of part 3, Josuke was 4 years old. So he was not a combatant, but his stand was also killing him. His stand is called Crazy Diamond, and it has the ability of restoration. So basically, Crazy Diamond is also very physically strong. Not quite as strong as Star Platinum, but it's close. And its ability is restoration. So for example, his mom swallows an enemy stand by accident, and so to trap the stand, he shatters a glass, and then he punches through his mom, and then he pulls his arm out, he repairs his mom's organs, like her abdomen, and he repairs the jar, and he's got the enemy stand in the jar. Or like he's fighting a guy who uses bombs. So he just breaks the floor, it's tiles, he breaks the ground, and he reconstructs it into a wall. So he can change the structure, or he can return it to what it originally was. That's Crazy Diamond's ability. And basically, I'm not going to reveal the main villain from here onward, because in every part here and after, the main villain is not revealed in episode 1, and you have to find that out. In fact, the Pillarmen aren't even revealed in episode 1, but it doesn't take too long for them to be revealed. And it's not really a spoiler if you reveal them. But the other villains would be a spoiler, so I won't go over them. But basically, Josuke is trying to save and protect Morio. He is stopping them from serial killers and psychopaths and all kinds of weird people, and basically trying to save his town. So yes, that is the premise, his crazy, noisy, bizarre town, if you will. That is the premise of part 4. So now, part 5 is called Golden Wind, and it takes place in Italy during 2001. The main character is named Giorno Giovanna. Actually, one other thing I did want to mention real quick. Josuke's stand, Crazy Diamond, if you didn't realize, is named after the Pink Floyd song, Shine On You Crazy Diamond. So yeah, stands from part 4 onward are named after music references. So, Giorno Giovanna is the main character of part 5. He is Dio's son, actually. But again, because Dio had Jonathan's body, he is also Jonathan's son. So he is still a Joestar, but his name is Gio instead of JoJo, but he's still a JoJo. And you see he has traits of both. But his stand is named Gold Experience after the Prince album, and basically it allows him to give things life. So, for example, he loses his arm while he's in a fight, and he uses the brooch on his suit to just make a new arm. Or like at one point, he ricochets like a piece of dead wood into some dude's brain. His name is Chocolata, and he's Chocolata's talking to him because he's trying to stall. And then all of a sudden, a beetle digs its way out of Chocolata's brain, and it bursts through his skull, and Chocolata dies. But basically, Giorno imbued that chunk of wood with life, and it created the stag beetle. So that's how Gold Experience works. And basically, the plot of part 5 is Giorno is trying to overthrow the Italian mafia because they're selling drugs to kids, and he doesn't like that. So, that's the main premise. Now, part 6 is great. I should also mention, part 3 is my favorite part. I think it's the most fun. I think it's the most enjoyable. And it also has Jotaro and Dio, which are my other two top 3 JoJo characters. Dio is probably my favorite out of the 3, but that's really hard to say. It's probably either Dio or Joseph, and then I think Jotaro is probably my 3rd favorite. But I digress. Part 6 is called Stone Ocean. It takes place in 2011 in Florida because, all the crazy shit happens in Florida. And Jolene Cujo is the main character, and she is actually Jotaro's daughter. So basically, her stand is called Stone Free, named after the Jimi Hendrix song, and it allows her to use string, so she can turn her body into string. Might sound kind of dumb, but like she can make like nets and shit. And at one point, she fights a stand that inverts gravity. Like they're driving, and all of a sudden, gravity just shifts. Like the cars flip off the road, they all fall. Like gravity is literally inverted. It is shifted. And so when this stand punches you, it inverts you. Like at one point, like it inverts her hand, and her fingers are like wriggling around. So she actually gets punched in the chest, and it inverts her heart. So she, is going to die. But she uses Stone Free to turn her heart into a Mobius strip, and she survives. So Stone Free is actually a pretty solid stand, and physically it's pretty strong too. It's no Star Platinum, but it's pretty good. It's formidable. So basically Jolene is falsely accused of murder, and she's imprisoned. And she's trying to get out of prison, but also Jotaro was put into a coma by the main villain, and basically Jolene has to try and save Jotaro and also get out of prison. So part 6 is really hated on. A lot of people don't like it. I like it a lot. It is either my second or third favorite part. It's my first is part 3. My second is either part 2 or part 6. And then after that is part 4, then part 5, and then part 1. But I love them all. So yeah, that's the end of the anime parts, and that's the end of the first original universe. Now the second universe is called Steel Ball Run. That's part 7. And it takes place in the Victorian era again, but instead in America. So it is in the Wild West. And basically it is a horse race across America. So it starts in the southeast or southwest. Yeah, starts in the southwest and it ends in the northeast. Basically it's them traveling across America. And the main character is named Johnny Joestar. He is the alternate universe of Jonathan Joestar, and he is crippled. So he is joining this race in order to learn to walk again. That's what he believes, is he can learn to walk again. And his stand is named Tusk, named after the Fleetwood Mac song. And Tusk is it's an act stand, which there's only 2 like it, but basically it evolves throughout the story. There's 4 acts, and the 4th act, Tusk Act 4, is one of the strongest stands ever. But Act 1 is kind of shitty. All it does is it allows Johnny to spin his fingernails and shoot them like bullets. So, not very strong, but it gets strong later. And, so basically, they are trying to obtain Jesus' corpse. That is what gives you stand power, and Johnny believes that learning the spin and obtaining parts of the Holy Saint's corpse or Jesus' corpse will allow him to learn to walk again. So part 7 is most people's favorite. I haven't finished reading it yet, but I know a lot about it, so I could go into depth, but I'll leave it there. Part 8 is called JoJo's, and it takes place in Japan in 2011. And the main character is Josuke Higashikata yet again, but he is the alternate universe version of the other Josuke. And basically, he is the result of fusion. He is 2 people fused into one. So he has, quote-unquote, amnesia, but in reality, he has no memories because he's just a new person. And so he's trying to find out who he is, as far as I know. I haven't read part 8, but yeah. So his stand is called Soft and Wet, named after the Prince song. And it basically allows him to make bubbles that can steal concepts. Like, from what I heard, he can, steal the friction from an object. So, yeah, Soft and Wet is kind of confusing. I don't know a whole lot about it. That's the best way I can describe it. But by the end, I know it's really busted. So, now, the most recent part 9, is called JoJo Lands. And JoJo Lands takes place in the 2020s in Hawaii. And the main character is named Jodio Joestar. And he is basically a kid who wants to be rich. He wants to make a lot of money. And, so that is the point of part 9, from what I know. Again, it's pretty new. It's still ongoing. His stand is called November Rain. It's named after the Guns N' Roses song, and it basically lets him make raindrops that, push people down, if that makes sense. I don't know too much about it. But I did forget to mention this, so I want to go over this real quick. Dio's influence. So this is going to spoil some parts, but I figure I'll go over it. So, part 1, so Dio is in part 1. straight up, so he influences it a lot. Part 2, we see the effects of Dio, you know, him killing Jonathan, and, you know, Erina, which is like Jonathan's wife, you know, all that. Basically, the later generations still remember Dio, and they're kind of affected. Part 3, again, Dio is just straight up in the part. He's the main villain. And then part 4, we see one of the side characters, his father, is mutated due to Dio implanting the cells into him. But also, there are stand arrows in Morio, and they were distributed by Dio. So, you know, he influenced a lot of what is going on in Morio. Now, part 5, well, the main character is Dio's son, so of course he influences it a lot. Yeah, again, stand arrows are also present. Now, part 6, big spoiler here, the main villain of part 6 is a friend of Dio's. He is essentially his disciple, and he is trying to carry out Dio's plan to, quote-unquote, achieve heaven. So, yeah, part 6 is kind of like the part 2 to Stardust Crusaders, or to part 3. And we also meet 3 of Dio's other sons. So, yeah, part 6, heavily influenced by Dio. And then part 7 has alternate universe Dio, named Diego Brando. So a lot of people say is better written. I don't know enough about Diego to make an accurate assumption, but I love Dio, so I don't know. Part 11, part 8, to my knowledge, does not actually have any Dio influence. But, again, I haven't read it, so I wouldn't know. And then part 9, we don't know yet, but the main character is named Joe Dio. So, there might be something there. And he is said to be alternate universe Giorno, who, again, is Dio's son. So, yeah, Dio he influences a lot. So, yeah. But that is the, rundown of JoJo. I hope you guys like it. And I plan to make more JoJo videos. But my next videos will probably be art. It'll either be some art gameplay or it'll be JoJo. We'll see. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this, and until the next time.